it's another episode of the Young Leaders Club podcast, and today I'm joined with Casey Bailey, writer, poet, educator, storyteller.
All kinds of stuff.
All kinds of things. And I'm very interested to dive into the conversation with you because looking at your background, oh my goodness, there is so much that we can talk about today. And it's nice that we've got you on because you're a creative, you're in Birmingham, and you've kind of gone from that creative field now into the education sector. So lots to dive into. So before we get into like the nitty gritty, let's take it right back to the very beginning, high school. Yeah. You've got that pressure of, you know, everyone's telling you you've got to have your career sorted out, go and book a meeting with the careers advisor. What was it for you that you thought, you know what, I want to go into that, that's a career for me?
Yeah, I think first of all, I didn't feel any of that pressure.
That's nice.
I just went through high school like a bit of a cannonball, really, and what happened.
Yeah.
I think what I went through, these are two very different things, and they are both things that I've grown up to be, I guess. A lot of the time I just wanted to be a rapper.
Okay.
I just thought, I'm going to be a rapper, of course I am. I'm the best rapper ever. That's how I felt when I was 15 years old. Still definitely top 10. No, so I thought, yeah, I'll be a rapper most of the time. And then sometimes wanted to be a maths teacher, because doesn't everyone want to be a rapper or a maths teacher?
There's not a bad difference.
That classic, you know.
You're going to be like a bit of a Jack Black in School of Rock,
that classic push and pull of, do I teach maths or do I become an international rap superstar? And that was my focus. I wasn't very focused at all. I went through school with undiagnosed ADHD. I was diagnosed when I was 19 years old. So day to day, I barely knew what was happening in the next hour, with the best will in the world to myself. But those two things came back again and again. I wanted to rap or I wanted to teach maths. Yeah. Because I really like maths, which I know makes me quite weird.
Oh my God. Well, do you know what? There's plenty of maths teachers. I bet some of them can rap. So you thought you're going to be a rapper or I'm going to be a maths teacher. You went to college, I'm assuming?
Yeah, I went to do A-levels at Cadbury Sixth Form College. Okay. Big up Cadbury every time.
So did you do maths or did you go down more of the creative route?
So I started A-level maths and I had a really interesting situation, a story I've never told on camera, probably never will, which made me stop going to maths. And so in the end, I dropped out of A-level maths. I remember having this meeting with the head of maths, who was the head of maths of A-level at the college. And she said, I don't think you should continue this course any further. She says, you're a pretty good mathematician, but you've attended 22% of lessons. You can do the maths on that, can't you, Casey? I was like, yeah, it doesn't sound promising. And she was like, so I think what I'd like to do is by mutual consent, you exit the course. But if not, then as soon as you drop below 100% attendance from this point, I'll remove you from the course. So I said, yeah, let's just knock it on the head.
Do you know what though? That, for some people, that would be like oh gosh, you know, what am I? If I've been told to leave this course, what am I going to do? Yeah. So in that moment, then you obviously weren't that bothered. I was fine. So did you have another plan then?
I think by that point, so I was doing at that time A-level maths, A-level chemistry, A-level biology, and A-level PE. And I'd really started to kind of lean into and enjoy the PE side of things. It was by far like my favourite course. And so even though, again, I still wasn't really thinking about what happens after college, I was much more interested in that side of things at that time than anything else. So if someone had said to me at that same time, you're going to have to drop A-level PE, I'd have been like,
there'd have been a problem,
I don't know about all that. But A-level maths, as my teacher said, 22% attendance. Clearly, I wasn't really in A-level maths. Yeah. So it looks like dropping it, but really it was just confirming it.
So when was the point then where you thought, I'm definitely going to go down more of the creative route. I'm going to try and pursue this career of being a rapper or an actor or whatever it was. When was that moment where you started to like take action into that? So
interestingly, I really leaned into the creative side of what I do after I became a teacher. So it was in my first year of teaching, or actually it was in my second year of teaching, I got handed a different role, which was the positive behaviour coordinator, where I had to work with the students who other people found difficult to work with, the students who found being in school difficult, and I started what I called Bailey's Rap and Poetry, BRAP Club. And kids would come and write raps and write poems. And after about a term, the kids every week I'd send them home with like a task, write a rap about an elephant, write a poem about a daffodil, whatever it might be, something random. And after about a term, the kids started coming and say, "Sir, you don't ever write anything for us. So next week, you come with a rap about this, or you come with a poem about that." And every week, I'd give them a challenge, and they'd give me a challenge. And that just randomly, my path into the creative kind of world was so random. Because I went on a school trip. I took a bunch of kids on a school trip. And the other member of staff who came, she also ran a drama school on the weekend.
Oh, nice.
So she was looking for a person who was at this place where we were on a trip, who was doing poetry, to come and deliver some workshops for her. And I heard them talking, and he was like, "I'll do the workshops for you, and I'll charge you this amount of money." And I was like, "You're not going to pay him that amount of money to do poetry workshops." She was like, "Of course I will." Like, I was like, "What?" I was like, "I'll do the poetry workshops for you for half that price."
Yeah.
She went, "Yeah, case, but you're not a poet, are you?" I said, "Kind of am a poet." And so what he did at the time...
I'm one of the best rappers in the world.
I'm, first of all, #1 rapper in the world. Top 10 poets in the universe. No, the ego came a little bit down. From 15 years old, it climbed a little bit down. So I was like, I think I can write a poem. But what he was doing on this trip is every night he would sum up their day in a poem.
Okay.
So I started summing up our day as a smaller group in a poem at dinner time for us. So we'd all get together and I'd do this poem. Yeah. First time I did it, the kids are like, "Shut up, so what are you talking about? You're going to do a poem?" Did this poem, they're like, "Oh, that's decent, actually." Yeah. The next night I did it. The third night, they're like, "So, are you going to do the poem? Are you going to do the poem?" I was like, "Yeah, I'll do the poem."
It's the kids to blame for the ego, then.
The kids, right? Boosting me up. I mean, it's not hard to be the coolest teacher. I'm sorry, teachers. Yeah. I'm sorry, teachers everywhere.
It's good to be the cool one. If you want to be anything, you want to be the cool teacher.
Very unfair on teachers. But they kind of did this, and then she called me about 3 weeks later on a Saturday morning. I was working in Coventry, living in Birmingham at the time. And she said, "Do you reckon you could run like a poetry workshop?" I said, yeah, I do. She called me at 8 o'clock in the morning on Saturday. I'm like, moving mad. And she said, "Could you do one today?" I was like, "What?" She was like, "Could you get to Coventry for 10 o'clock and run a poetry workshop for me?" I was like, She was like, "I'll pay you £150. I was like, "Yeah, okay." Yeah. So off I went. And then a little bit more luck is we were being filmed by someone who took that. She worked for the Pauline Quirk Academy of Performing Arts. And they took the video to like the national conference the next weekend. And I got an email from the academy saying, we want you to be a masterclass deliverer. We'd like you to come in and deliver these workshops for us up and down the country.
Oh my gosh.
Okay. And then my brother, who is like the kind of person who will call you out exactly how you need to be called out, said to me, "Why would anyone want a poetry workshop from you?" And I was like, "Because they're good." He said, "I'm sure they are, but who are you?" I was like, "What do you mean?" He was like, "In this poetry world, who are you?" And I was like, "Fair, I'm no one." He said, "So are you going to start doing the poetry and taking it seriously yourself?" I was like, "Maybe." And then I just started coming to open mic nights, read a poem here, read a poem there, realise you're not the best poet because there's lots of really good poets. Yeah. But yeah, that then just filtered me down into this path of like a real love of, I've always had a love of words. I've always had a love of like wordplay and witty turns of phrase. But poetry led me down like a real understanding of capturing people's emotions and connecting them to something outside of themselves or something inside of themselves that they weren't already connected to. And here we are.
That is crazy. Crazy that you kind of just fell into that.
So many of those things, if one of those things didn't happen, if I didn't go on that trip, if she didn't work at my school, like I don't know whether we'd be having this conversation.
And that's when you think, God, the universe works in weird and wonderful ways where you think, oh, you know, you didn't know, you know, going back to the very beginning, I didn't know if I wanted to be a maths teacher or a rapper. And obviously you went down the teaching route, led you to now being where you are. So that in itself is just a wonderful message. I feel like we could wrap it the podcast right now. Like that's it. That's the message. You know, and just to follow your instincts. You know, and just to go down the right path of this is what feels right. This is where I think I should be. This is what I think I should be doing. And it's obviously led to, you know, where you are now. So let's get into like the successes then, because I've done my research, but there was a lot. There was a lot going on. Poet and writer, Birmingham Poet, how do I say that? Laureate. 2020, 2022, nationally and internationally recognised performer. let's talk about that then, because obviously you went from, you're not like, you haven't got an English, do you have an English degree?
No. No.
So what was your degree in to get you into teaching?
My degree was in physical education. So it was in sport and the education system. Which
is crazy then, to then be recognised as Birmingham Poet
Bonkers.
Laureate?
Laureate. Yeah.
See, it just proves that
most people haven't seen the word, so it's
I had not seen the word. I am not in the poet industry, but mad. And then playwright. Wrote GrimeBoy, which had sold out run at Birmingham Rep. So you wrote that yourself.
Yep.
So tell us a little bit about GrimeBoy.
So that's that one, slightly, again, right place, right time.
Yeah.
And kind of, I think you captured it perfectly, like following your instincts. And sometimes they lead not exactly where you think they're going to go, but they lead to great things. I signed up for a thing called the Poetic Theatre Makers. Okay. And there was a poet at the time, I say poet at the time, she's still a poet, Jess Green from Leicester, who had a show on called A Self-Help Guide to Being in Love with Jeremy Corbyn. Amazing show. And she had a book that went with it. But it was essentially, I don't want to do Jess a disservice, but it was essentially like a very long poetry set.
Okay.
So she would talk in between poems and she performed, a number of poems out of the book. Amazing poet. Every time, I saw it 3 times in different places. It landed every time. And I wanted to do something like that.
Yeah.
So I wanted to create a piece that was basically an hour of me doing different poems, a little bit of talk in between, job done.
Yeah.
There's a thing. So I signed up for Poetic Theatre Makers, and it's all going okay, and I'm happy with it. And then the mentors, so I was mentored by 2 theatre makers called Chris Thorpe and Somalia Seaton. And they'd say stuff like, write a scene of dialogue where 2 characters are talking. So, but there's not 2 characters in the piece, like there's just me. So why would I do that? Just play with it, see how it feels. This thing here that you've told a story about, write it as a bit of dialogue between 2 people. I don't know, and well, this is what the programme's about. We're going to do different things. Some of them won't work. Some of them will feel great. Some of them you'll think that's useless. And so I start writing little bits and pieces. And next thing you know, I'm writing a 4-person play. It's not me at all. It needs to not be me because it needs to be people far better than me. And it's a whole story that encapsulates really the world that I was living in between 16 and 19 years old, or maybe 14 and 19 years old, of wanting to be a grime MC, being around drama, violence, all kinds of issues, and what happens in that kind of world. And then it went from a nice idea to a little showcase to a full-blown script, and Birmingham Rep taking it on and saying, we want to put this on stage, we want to do a 3-week run. And next thing you know, we had this thing, and I was like, what on earth is going on here? Like, I've written a play. Yeah. I've written a play, and the play's on in one of the biggest theatres outside of London, and to be fair, one of the biggest theatres in the country. And it was just mind-blowing. I didn't really know what to do with that.
But it's mad that you didn't even have the intention of, that was your goal, I wanted to get there. It was just, I'm just going to write, see where it goes. And again, it still blows my mind that it was never like an instant thought for you of, I want to go down the writing path, or, it was always maths or PE or rapping. Obviously, there is this continuous theme of you wanting to be a rapper, a performer, and, and it kind of is showing in all these different things that's happened. I've also got author, published 2 poetry collections. Please Do Not Touch, Burning Eye.
Yeah, Burning Eye published. Please Do Not
Legacy.
Touch. Legacy was published by Punch, so that is, so the books are, there's 2 full poetry collections, Please Do Not Touch with Burning Eye and Adjusted with Verve. Then I did a semi-self-published, my first book was Waiting at Bloomsbury Park with Big White Shed, Big Up the Big White Shed. And then my last book is called From This Soil, which is a poetry pamphlet with Broken Spine. Legacy was a book that we wrote, myself and almost called Jess, not Jess's real name, then almost called her Jess Green, Jess Monroe. So me and Jess Monroe wrote it. She did a load of interviews with artists from the early 2000s to 2020 hip-hop and grime scene in Birmingham, and I wrote a load of chapters around those scenes and important things, and we tried to capture the legacy of the Birmingham hip-hop and grime scene. So
it's mad, and also screenwriter, the Ballad of the Peaky Blinders, which then got commissioned by the BBC.
Yeah. So
amazing.
Lots of very random stuff.
Yeah. How did that come back? 'Cause obviously, like Peaky Blinders blew up. I mean, Birmingham was on the map anyway, but it extra put it on the map when Peaky Blinders come out. So, what was it that influenced you to write that and go about that and then get it commissioned by BBC?
So they commissioned me. So I didn't write it before they commissioned me. They reached out to me to write it. BBC did. So I think it was coming to the start of the 4th series. They'd done like a creative launch of each series. I don't know if they did for series 1, but I don't think anyone knew at series 1 just how huge Peaky Blinders was going to be. And I remember I was at school. I was in an after-school club with a group of students who I'm trying to remember what I called them at the time because I've got a different name now, Boys to Men. So it was a group of boys who were trying to get to understand their potential and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And my phone rings, don't know the number. I'm in there with another member of staff. I say, "Sir, can you just watch these up for a sec?" Answer the phone. "Hi, Casey, it's someone from the BBC. Can I talk to you about this?" Oh, in fact, they never asked me what, because they talked to me, they said, "Are you a fan of the Peaky Blinders?" I said, "Yeah, I love the Peaky Blinders." Hello.
It's the BBC. Do you like the Peaky Blinders?
Is anyone not a fan of the Peaky Blinders? So I was like, yeah. And she was like, "We're looking to commission a poet to write the promotional campaign for the next series." And we go through this talk, and I said, "Okay, like, what other poets do you have in mind? Who's the competition?"
Yeah.
And she said, well, I say we're looking to commission a poet. We're looking to commission you. You're the poet we have in mind." I was like, "Oh, wow, okay." And I remember I was so excited. I got off the phone, and I started telling my friend who I work with. And she calls me back and answers the phone again. And I say, "Oh, hello." And she says, "I just realised we haven't discussed the price." So I just agreed to write this thing. I haven't even said, like, "You have to pay me this much money." I was like, "Yeah, I'll write it for you." I hadn't even discussed
Do you know
payment.
what? It's mad, though, because I think when you do love something, that is not what comes into your head at all. You're
100%.
you're immediately just gassed
That's
up on the fact
exciting,
that they've reached out to you.
100%.
Payment's a bonus, you know?
It's always good. So yeah, and then I wrote it, I sent it back to them. They're really happy with it, and so we just kind of moved quite quickly. And that led to, I think the best thing that came out of that for me was when they went into season 6, they told me when they asked me to do the season 4, they really loved it, but they said, like, "Just so you know, we probably you won't write for the show again because they do a different idea every year, so they won't want to do poetry again."
Yeah.
And they came into season 6, and I knew it was going to be the last season, and they called me up and said, "We want you to do the promotional campaign again." And I was like, "Oh, like, I thought you weren't." They says, "No, we think this is the best way for us to go. We'd really like you to write the ode of the Peaky Blinders." So I was like, "Okay." And it was more, so the first one was really about the show. It was about capturing and summing up the story of the first few series, but also trying to capture the mood of the Peaky Blinders. The last one was look at the impact that the Peaky Blinders has had in the world and write us a piece about what's going on now because of the Peaky Blinders, and that was great. And I've had the privilege of meeting Stephen Knight, who wrote the show, on a number of occasions, and just having very positive experiences with him. I remember I met him, or I saw him, and I was with my dad. It was at the Peaky Blinders Festival in Digbeth. I was performing there, and he says to my dad, I said, "Oh, Dad, this is Stephen Knight. Stephen Knight, this is my dad." And he said, "Your son's a fantastic writer." And I was like, "Well, you know, you wrote the Peaky Blinders. I just wrote the poem." And he said, "Oh, no. What I do is like beer. There's loads of it. What you do is like whiskey. It's distilled." I was like,
"Wow."
I was like, "That might be better than anything I've ever written."
Yeah. I'm taking that, Stephen Knight. Thanks.
That is distilled.
What a massive compliment,
I was
though.
just like mind blown that he would say something so nice. And then I can't remember which, I think it was the second day of the festival, so they had a poetry space set up, and I performed there twice, and you maybe got 60 people in there under the arches in Digbeth. Decent crowd for poetry. Yeah. But lots of space. You can move around. So we're doing the poetry performances under the arches in Digbeth, and you get in maybe 60 people. Yeah. Decent crowd for poetry, but wasn't packed. Yeah. And then I was in the bar where some of the actors were and some of the writers were, or the writer was. And Stephen Knight says to me, "Oh, Casey, in about half an hour, I'm going to go and read from my mother's journal under the arches. Do you want to come and read a few poems?" was like, what? He's like, do you want to just come down there and do a few poems with me? I said, okay.
What is going on? That's
so
got to be a pinch me moment
wild,
where you're like, what is going
wild.
on?
And there's footage somewhere. I don't have the footage. I need to call, because there was someone filming me most of the weekend because we were doing some like day in the life type stuff. And we get on these like buggies, golf buggies, and we're on the back of this golf buggy, me and Stephen Knight, and there's a couple of other buggies with different people on. And there's just people in Digbeth just like, Stephen, Stephen, Stephen. I'm just sitting there like...
I'll be going,
and we go,
Casey.
and we get... I wish. I was like, anyone?
Does anyone want to say my name?
For me? It's Casey? No? I'm with Stephen.
One day.
Stephen's
Keep
friend.
manifesting it.
Man with Stephen. So we're on the back of these buggies, going through Digbeth, and we go into this little back area that I didn't know that actually existed behind the arches. And we go up on stage, and the area is packed. Like, it's ridiculous. It's rammed. You cannot move in there.
You thought, oh, this is fine. Not many people.
And you know, I'm okay with a crowd. Weirdly, I'm okay with as big a crowd as you want. But sitting there is Stephen Knight while you're about to read this poem, before he reads from his mum's memoir. So it's like, this is not
a big moment.
This is not the time to get this wrong.
Yeah.
And so I knew I was going to do the Peaky Blinders poem.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, what other poem do I know well enough and that I feel will land that is gonna be all right in this space? And there's a photograph that I've got, which is me and Stephen Knight on stage, and in the background there's a man like on his camera phone taking photos. And someone says to me, "Oh, like who let that man on the stage?" I was like, "That's Anthony Byrne. He directed, I think, the last 3 series of the Peaky Blinders. He's like one of the best flipping directors in the country."
Oh my God! And you've got it.
Yeah, and there's just this photo of me and Stephen Knight sitting on stage, and just Anthony Byrne in the background.
Yeah, and you've literally you're about to go on there, do these poems off the cuff.
It was wild. Yeah.
The pressure of that.
Yeah.
How do you cope with that? How do you cope with the? Because I'm assuming from the achievements that you've got, there's been moments where you're like, this is immense pressure right now, and I actually don't know how I'm going to cope with it.
I think so. I grew up in beautiful Nechells in Birmingham, and throughout my life, I've been in some pretty difficult situations.
Yeah.
And the most difficult ones have got nothing to do with the arts and nothing to do with teaching. So in those worst moments, I think I've been in much more challenging moments. Like the worst thing that happens is I mess up the poem. Stephen Knight thinks, what a joker. The crowd going, well, who's this guy? And then we move on.
Yeah.
Like I wake up the next day and everything carries on. He might not call me back for the next poem, but worse things have happened.
Yeah.
So I always I'm always thinking, is this situation life or death? Is something dreadful going to happen at the end of it? The answer's almost always no. Crack on, and we'll see what happens. I still feel nervous. The stomach still goes a bit, but then I'm like, okay, this is a big thing because it,
I mean, that's good advice anyway for any situation, and it's very hard, I think, when you are in times of being under pressure and the anxiety is going crazy for you to go into this speculation of, oh my God, the worst things ever is going to happen. Yeah. So it's good that you can talk to yourself in that way and be like, okay, this isn't the worst thing in the world.
Nothing that bad ever happens here.
Yeah. Well, obviously it's a Young Leaders Club podcast, so lots of people will be watching this in all different fields. But a lot of young people, I think, go through the times of self-doubt and that imposter syndrome. Yeah. So how did you develop confidence in your craft? Yeah. Especially coming from something where you didn't really go through the motions of studying it or you kind of fell into it. So how did you develop that?
I think the first thing is, a lot of the people who we now study didn't have anyone to study. So they wrote because they love writing. Yeah. They had a love for words, they had a passion for words. A lot of our most famous writers and highly thought of writers, they were making up words that didn't exist when they wrote them. You couldn't study that. And so I try not to get in my head too much around how much time people have spent dissecting and studying words, because I've read an awful lot. I've had a lot of time thinking about the stuff that I've read. Sometimes I've had great workshops where I thought, I haven't thought about that like that. But I try not to get too bogged down in how much formal education I've done around the work that I do. I guess in some aspects I'm still not very confident. Yeah. I'm always conscious. Like I'll say this about sports. So I'll say I'm really bad at football, and I am. But if you took the average footballer that play football like them,
Yeah.
But I grew up playing football with some people who went on to play Premier League football, and some people who went to play semi-pro football, and so they were all a lot better at football than I was. So in my head, I'm not very good at football. Most people who are worse at football than me just don't play football again.
Yeah.
And so in your head, you're really bad, but you're really bad compared to some really good people.
Yeah.
And in writing, I still now, particularly in poetry, and in writing theatre, but particularly in poetry, I read poets who I love. Their work blows my mind. There are poets who I can pick up Liz Berry, The Way Home, a poem that is probably my favourite poem. If I read it right now, I'd probably cry. I know the poem inside out, and it would still move me to tears.
Yeah.
So I'm always like, well, I'm not Liz Berry.
Yeah, that bit of...
There's always that level of, there's so much space for growth. But
how do you know someone doesn't read your poem and it
might
has the same effect?
And I think more than that, I've been in rooms where you read your poem out, and that's the thing. I've read poems and people have cried. I've read poems and people have told me what they cried about, and I thought, I don't even think that's an emotional part of the poem. There's a poem that I've got about Birmingham, and there's like a little pun about Longbridge, and it's about the fact that, it's difficult for people to get over what happened in Longbridge in terms of Rover and all of that. But I say this will be a long bridge for those people to get over. And it's partly a salute, but partly it's meant to be a little bit funny. This woman came up to me, she's crying her eyes out. She said, when you mention Longbridge, and it is hard for us to get over, my husband worked at the Rover plant. And she was breaking down, and I was like, oh my gosh. So the beauty of poetry is some people are going to think you're wonderful and everything you say is exactly right for them. And I might show you that Liz Berry poem and you might go, yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Okay, didn't really get it. So you never know who you're going to connect with on what level. And I think with art, lots of art, no art is for everyone. So most art is for someone. So if someone is going to connect to it, that's amazing. And I think even when you step out of, art, again, it comes down to you are going to be scared. You are going to be nervous. Do it scared. Do it nervous. There's nothing worse than waking up tomorrow and going, wish I'd have tried that yesterday. That is way worse than waking up and going, I can't believe I flopped that so badly. That is horrendous. I've been in situations where, especially back when I was younger and I used to MC, and people say these big MCs are coming and we're going to get on the mic, so we need to get in the backstage area. And I'll be like, I don't know. And then my friend gets up there and he's MCing and I'm thinking, why am I not up there right now? And wake up the next day and some people are going to, oh, did you see such and such MCing with them people? And you're like, yeah, I saw them, I was there. Was there? Why weren't you doing it? Well, I thought, I didn't want to. You don't want to be that person.
No, 100%. You've got to just throw yourself into
rejection or failure, and all of those things are things to learn from. So for me, and this is something I've learned massively through writing and writing poetry, if you enter a poetry contest in this country, you are one of a very large number of people. And so the chances of you winning that specific judge, like in that specific poem that you wrote, is next to nothing. Like the chances of that happening are tiny. So if you don't win, you just go, okay, I'll just enter another competition. I'll send it for another anthology. I'll perform it at a different night. You can't afford to get bogged down in.
No.
I'll send that piece, and if that piece isn't successful, then that's it. It can't be that. And I remember being at a workshop, and somebody said, in poetry, you'll never meet someone who has had more acceptances and have had rejections. And I said, I think I have. And she said, what? I said, I think I've had more acceptances and had rejections. This was like a few years ago now, well, quite a few years ago now. And she said, you need to raise your standards. I said, what do you mean? She said, you need to stop sending your work to places that are safe, that you know will accept it, and send it to the places that you really want to see it published. And in my head, I knew there are journals that I really would love to see my work published in. I wouldn't dream of sending it there because they're not going to take my work. That's what my brain's telling me.
Yeah, it's your own mind telling you.
So I'm going, I'll send it here, and I'm being quite cocky with myself. Oh, yeah, I get accepted to this place and that place. You got accepted there because you knew they were going to accept you before you sent it.
Yeah.
What about that one? What about that one? And I've sent to some of those places, and some of them have accepted my work, and I'm like, oh, my work's in this, and my work's in that, and then I'm proud of that. I'd rather do that than spend the whole time going, I wonder if this would have got accepted if I sent it there.
And also for your own peace of mind of like, like you just said, what if?
Yeah, you don't want to live
that
like
whole
that.
what if. But also, if you're sending them to the places where I know I'm going to get accepted. It's that little bit of validation, but is it really going to fulfill the full validation 100%. When you're going to keep wondering?
100%. And I think one of the, to take it out of the creative world, one of the biggest moments like that for me was when I moved from my first teaching job to my second teaching job. It was quite a big promotion. I moved from having a small, they call them TLRs in education, a small like responsibility point, to quite a big one. And I didn't move because I wanted that. I moved because my mother was sick and I was working in Coventry and living in Wednesbury, and the commute was killing me, and I couldn't get home and then get to see my mum.
Yeah.
So I needed to live closer to where I worked. But the job I applied for was quite a big job.
Yeah.
And I did the interview, and the interview went really well. And I was fortunate at my school in Coventry. The guy who was my line manager, he's just exceptional. I didn't know how great he was. I thought everyone was like him in his role. And so I'm picking up all these great ideas as it's just everyday practice. It'd be like saying, you know, how do you hold a cup? You hold it by the handle. To me, that was like day-to-day stuff that he was giving me. And I went into this interview, and I remember I answered a question. I didn't know how the interview was going, and I answered a question, and the guy who asked the question said, "It's like you were in my head when I wrote the question, because that's a perfect answer." And I thought, oh, I just thought that. I thought everyone would answer that. Like, isn't that what everyone has said before me in their interview? That's just what you'd say. Yeah. And the head teacher called me in, and she said, I need you to understand, Casey, that when I gave you this interview, I was pretty confident I couldn't give you this job because you don't have enough experience. There's no way that you could know what we needed you to know. Yeah. She says, and I have to tell you now, I can't not give you this job because what you've shown in this interview, nobody else knows what you know. Nobody else who's interviewed here today knows what you know. And I was like, maybe Dan was really, really, really amazing, and I just thought he was a regular assistant head teacher. And when I got offered that job, I thought so many people in my position would have went, you can't get that job. Yeah. You've been teaching less than 3 years. It's a big middle leadership role. No one's going to give you that job. And she told me, that's what I thought before I interviewed you. I'm not giving him this job.
I mean, great, really, that you got the interview. Yeah. You was 3 years into your teaching career and you went for assistant head. It was like a middle leader, head of year with some additional responsibilities. Yeah. But even still, it was really early. And that was a big learning curve. Because then it's one thing knowing the answers in the interview, it's another thing when the kid's sitting in front of you. Yeah. Or the member of staff is standing in front of you. Yeah. But it was that thing of in terms of what I knew and what I could do, because I'd been thrown in at the deep end at my previous school, but really well supported, I could do it all, but it's easy to think that you can't. It's easy to think, oh, I won't be able to do that. And the other thing is, which we all find out when we become a bit older in life, is that most people are winging it to some extent at some point. So you meet people and you're like, oh, he knows everything. Yeah. And then you start working with him and it's like, what's going on Tuesday? Like, I thought you knew everything. Yeah. And now you're not sure what's going on in the morning. I think when you do meet those people in life, especially when you aspire to be, in a certain position or certain role models that you've had. Yeah. But Stephen Knight probably don't know what he's doing day from day. He does know what he's doing, I'll tell you. No, but definitely some people, they are going day by day, just kind of winging things and it works out. And to be fair to the very great Stephen Knight, because of the stuff he's doing for the city and infrastructure, there's probably days when he's like, how's this going to work? Yeah. What do we do here? Because he's stretching it and he's doing more and he's making more happen. And if you want to make more things happen, you have to keep stepping into territory that you don't know. Yeah. You have to keep doing things where people go, how do you do that? And you're like, I don't know if anyone's ever done this before. I don't know if there's a book on this one. Do you know what I mean? Like, I've just got to do it. 100%. And you'll work it out. More often you'll work it out than not. And if you don't, then maybe it shouldn't have been done. Maybe it can't be done. Maybe you can't do it. That's okay. Yeah. You can do lots of other things. So it's important not to get bogged down in those things. Yeah, 100%. Stemming off of all your creative roles that you've had, how do you think your love for music and theatre and poetry have inspired your career within your now leadership roles? I think, again, it comes down to, I love words. So sometimes I'll sit in a meeting and people spend 10 minutes trying to capture an idea and not capture it very well. Yeah. And you can say 5 words and people go, oh, okay. So there's a whole thing that I'm working on now outside of school, which was born of my leadership roles in school, which is the labels that we give when we don't give labels. And this came out of conversations with parents who would say, I don't want my child to be labelled as autistic. Yeah. Or I don't want my child to be labelled as ADHD or dyslexic. I don't want them labelled. And I was like, your child is being labelled. Yeah. Your child's being labelled as rude. Your child's being labelled as difficult. Your child's being labelled as awkward. None of these labels come with any help. Yeah. And these are the labels that we give when we don't give labels. And I've seen parents go like, I've never thought about that. Yeah. And their kids been suspended from school and that isn't worrying them.
the idea of a diagnosis is worrying them. I'm like, but your kid's at home today because they've been suspended from school. And I'm saying maybe if we understood what was going on, they wouldn't be suspended from school. Isn't that the goal? Isn't that what we're trying to do? And so many people I've tried to explain this kind of idea to. And now if I say the labels that we give them, we don't give labels, they go, that makes sense? That comes to me because I spend all my time sitting down trying to write things down in a creative way or in a way that, you know, you can capture the essence of a novel in a poem if you write the poem well enough. So how much can you capture in a short space of time with as little words as possible, with images, with concepts, with ideas, with juxtaposition and relationships. So that's what I'm doing when I'm talking to kids about why they should make the right decision, when I'm talking to staff about how they need to lead their classroom, when I'm talking to my bosses and saying, actually, I think we need to go in a different direction. It's the power of language. And the power of language is something that has been important to me without me giving it that label since I was 12 years old, trying to MC on the corner in Mitchell's. So I'm trying to think of the cleverest way to say that lyric, the best way to capture that idea, a way of telling the story of people around me that captures how difficult their story is without them being offended by what I'm saying. So I'm always balancing those things. Now I'm doing it sitting around a big boardroom table with the 10 people who are going to make the decision that changes what we're doing in September. What's our policy on this? Should we be doing that about that thing? Is this the way we want to teach this course? The decisions are huge, but sometimes the ideas can be quite simple and summed up in a way that says, well, what does this mean for our ethos? What does it mean for our students? What does it mean for tomorrow? And so, what I do as a creative is I play with words, and what I do as a leader is I play with words, or I stop playing and I make the words do something a little bit more.
But it's great because people who, you know, are stepping into, you know, the world of work, you know, coming fresh out of university or maybe taking that career change and going into a brand new environment. I think if you're not a creative in your work, everyone somehow relates to creativity in some way. And there'll be some ways that people find things easier to express. So like you've just said, you've always had a way with words, you know. You didn't study to be a poet, that was just your thing, of how you connected with that. And you can then put that now into your work as a teacher and into your leadership roles where young kids are listening to you. You know, I'm massively inspired just by listening to you. So I bet the kids just absolutely adore you.
I'm still a teacher. That means you're like, teacher. You're down here. You know, in the rankings of humans for kids.
No, I don't think so.
No, I think lots of kids love their teachers.
I had teachers in school I absolutely loved, you know, and I've met them again as an adult and still have a great relationship with them. So it's, you know, I bet you've got kids who you teach and have taught who, you know, have idolised you.
I mean, maybe, I've definitely got kids I've got very positive relationships with. I've got kids who have reached out to me. Somebody reached out to me this week, actually, and just said, you know, I'm now 20-something years old. I run my own business. I'm doing this work. And if it weren't for you, I wouldn't be doing this. And I'm like, oh. And I know exactly the times that they're talking about. But in my head, they always could do it. And now I realise because I thought that and because I said that, they believe that. And then they did it. I always thought they were going to do it because they were great. But I tend to think that of most young people because I know when I was 14, I was absolute carnage, and most people would have looked at me and gone, he's going to be a problem. He's a weapon. I know what I've achieved. I know how I've managed to turn that around. So I look at every kid and think, I have to have the faith in you that I wish I'd have had in myself at your age, because it turns out I could do it.
It's nice that you've got that perspective on it. Did you have anyone in school who you just totally looked up to and thought, oh my gosh, you know?
I wouldn't say I had anyone who I massively looked up to. I had some teachers who I thought very highly of. So I had my history teacher, Mr. Richardson, who was also my tutor. And I would be horrible to him, I'd swear at him and all kinds of stuff. And the next day I'd walk in and he'd go, "You right, Casey?" I'd be like, "Yeah." And he always gave me that chance, that fresh start. He was also hilarious, but he was hilarious in a way that most kids don't get. So I was cracking up and people are like, "Oh, you like your teacher's page." I'm like, "No, he's just really clever." And he's saying really clever stuff and you're not getting it. But I think it's hilarious. We got to a point where when I was in year 11, he would tell jokes for me. Like he would look at me like in the same way now. This is going to sound mad about my classmates, and I went to school with some very clever people. But like in the same way as a parent, you might tell a joke in front of your kids that you know your kids aren't going to get.
Yeah.
So you make that joke, be like, ha, and the kids are like, he would look at me and make a joke, and I'd be like, nope, okay, cool.
I bet he loved it.
He was, yeah. So I always looked up to him as just an intelligent man who knew his stuff. He seemed to me to have a really like beautiful sense of morals. And when you're teaching history, especially the history curriculum that we have in this country, you can very easily teach it in a way that I think would teach kids a lot of very negative things. But he managed to capture, you know, a bit of the broader picture without making me fail my exams for writing down mad stuff.
That's good. That's good. we'll give him that then. So before we kind of wrap up, I've got a quick fire round at the end, and I'm going to shoot some questions at you. But before we get into that, getting where you want to go comes with failure.
Yeah.
We've touched on it briefly, and I think a lot of people fear failure before actually diving into stuff, and it's straight away, it's like, no, I can't do that. There's no way. Like you were saying about the journals and things like that. What's one lesson you've learned from being told no?
I guess it's maybe not a lesson. Really quick story. My second book, Please Do Not Touch. I just when I was finishing it, I'd read an article in the the Birmingham Literature Journal, and it was Roger Robinson, who's an amazing poet, talking about how uninspired he was by a competition he had just judged.
Yeah.
So I decided what would be a good idea would be to send my book to Roger Robinson for some feedback.
Okay.
And I remember he first came back to me and he said, when's the publishing date? And I told him the publishing date, and he replied, can you push it back?
God.
This isn't ready.
I bet you're like, no.
and we went through why he thought it wasn't ready and all this stuff.
Yeah.
And the book is now nothing like what it was when I sent it to him. I still don't know if at that point it would have got a seal of approval, and that's okay. But what I know is I am much more happy with the book that I have now than the book that I sent him. And that's because I had to hear someone tell me it wasn't as good as it could be. It had space for development. It had room for growth. And so what I've learned is sometimes when people say to you, this isn't it, that doesn't mean you can't do it. That means you haven't done it yet.
Yeah.
So go and do it. Go and do the work. You know, if it's, you know, get in the gym, run on the street, write the thing, practice, learn, go on YouTube and watch a video of how you're supposed to do it, whatever it is. If someone says to you, that's not quite it, work out what it is, go again and do it again. And
it's hard, I think, when you come from a space of, you know, family are the biggest people to big you up, you know, and to be like, you're amazing, you know, I could do anything. My mum would think I'm the best in the world, you know. So when you've got a lot of people who are surrounding you, who are telling you how good you are, to then take your work elsewhere, especially in the creative world, because it can be quite a vulnerable place. You're putting yourself out there. To then have someone in industry be like, actually, no, that point you do kind of feel like, oh, gosh.
And the funny thing is, with you saying that, is the poetry community is like family in that you get up and read a poem at a poetry night, everyone's going to tell you it's great, because it takes a lot to do it, and they know that. Of course. So they want to be generous and they want to be positive. I sent it to Roger Robinson. I sent 3 of the poems to my dad. My dad was like, I'm not sure about this. He was the same.
Oh my
he was right as well.
Okay, so your dad and your brother are like that then. They're both very much to the point.
Was like, could be better. He was like, I don't get what you're trying to do. I think your other stuff's better than this. And I was like, fair, there's a compliment in there. And when I reworked it, I was much more happy with it. So
there we go. See, so obviously that point of being told no is always a bit like, oh no, I haven't done it right. And again, that all comes with the feelings of imposter syndrome and not feeling good enough, and it's your own brain. But you are right. The more you send it out, people, I find, are always, they are encouraging in their own ways, and they will give you feedback, and it might not always be what you want, but there's something in there that is telling you that you can be better. And I think as someone now, and you probably feel the same, in a position where you've got people sending you their stuff, I instantly am like, how can I make this better for them? How can I, you know, and that is the initial thought. It's not like I'm going to put you down and this and this. It is encouraging, but you have to go through that phase of being told, actually, That's not quite right. So let's get into the quick fire round then. 5 questions just to finish off the pod.
Okay.
Try and give me the first thing that comes to you.
Okay.
So number 1, one skill every young leader should develop.
Reading.
Reading. What in particular? I mean, obviously it's going to vary.
Reading and understanding. So there's I think, or you know, listening to audiobooks is fine. I'm not ableist. Some people don't like to actually read on a page, and some people struggle with it. To me, the ability to go out and get information for yourself, understand it, and turn that into something you can use, is becoming more and more lost. And it's like if somebody doesn't give it to you, you don't have it.
Yeah.
But it's out there, so go and get it. Everything, to me, reading, most of the things that I can do them because I read something. Love
that. Right, number 2, one book that has changed the way you think about creativity.
Okay, I think it's called Free Play. It's by a man called Stephen, I can't say his last name off the top of my head.
That's okay, well, let's have a quick Google.
Shall I Google it? I'll find it. Yeah, Free Play.
Stephen.
I think it's first name Stephen, last name Nakmanovic. Yeah.
Nakmanovic.
Free Play, Stephen Nakmanovic. I was recommended it when I interviewed Johnny Pitts and Roger Robinson.
Okay.
And it like bends your whole mind around how you should look at creativity, how you should think about creativity. And for me personally, regardless of what field you're in, that's what I like about it. It's not for writers per se.
Yeah.
Regardless of what field you're in, it challenges you to look at the world in a different way, to create at all times, to be inspired at all times. And I love it.
There we go, free play.
Yeah.
Number 3, the biggest mistake a young professional can make.
I think the biggest mistake that a young professional can make is deciding that they can't do something. Don't close doors on yourself. Other people are welcome to close doors on you. Yeah. Don't close them on yourself. Put your name in the hat. Stick your foot in the door. If someone's going to tell you no, let them tell you no. Don't say no to yourself.
And as one door closes,
one
is open somewhere. You just got to find it. A piece of career advice you wish you knew early on.
Oh.
One that you thought, bloody hell, I wish I knew that.
If you send an email in capital letters, people will say you're shouting at them through the email.
Have you ever done that and then thought,
I have, yeah.
No, I didn't mean to send some caps.
I got told off for it in my first year of teaching.
There we go, make sure
Don't be sending them
your
caps lock email.
Arnold.
Not unless you're ready to back it.
Yeah. Right, your last one, your personal leadership motto.
Oh, I don't think I have one, but I'm sure I could create one.
Or even like a bit of a mantra
like
that you tell yourself.
I think to make it broad, and then I'll explain why I say that. Remember why you do what you do. I'm a teacher, I'm a senior leader in a school because there's nothing more important than the kids that I work with. Full stop. So on days when the kids are challenging, on days when people want to make the easy decision, or sometimes the angry decision, how does this serve the kids?
Yeah.
How does it serve all the kids that you work with, particularly the ones who need the most support? So if you know why you're doing something, it will very often pull you back on track. As soon as you lose sight of why and you start thinking about, well, how will this affect how people see me for the promotion I want to go for? And how will this affect when I get to go home and all that kind of stuff? You're at home thinking, I wish I'd have done the other thing.
Yeah.
So I what I do for these students in the school that I work at. They are the most important thing. Nothing will ever top that. So why are you doing it? And if you know why you're doing it, you'll tend to make the best decision for you.
Totally inspired. Honestly, what a great interview. I've loved talking to you. And you are on the advisory board for Young Leaders Club. So before we wrap up then, we'll wrap up after this. What's your main mission being on the advisory board of Young Leaders Club?
I think that, our purpose is to make sure there are lots of young people out there who have always felt like everything is for them. And that's beautiful and that's great.
Yeah.
There are lots of people who don't. And I think the mission is for as many people as possible to also feel like that.
Yeah.
So it shouldn't be a select group of people who have got connections in the right place or who fit the mould or look a certain way who go, I can do this.
Yeah.
And then everybody else goes, oh, well, that's for them. It's for you. It's for all of us.
Yeah.
So for me, the more people who go, I can do it, even if the world has previously told me I can't, even if I'm not supposed to think it, I do think it. I can do it. I will be it. That's what we're here for.
Perfect, lovely. Where can we find you on socials?
Oh, I'm on Instagram at Casey_Bailey.
There we go. And LinkedIn as well.
Oh, and LinkedIn.
Connect on LinkedIn.
One of them,
and
Casey Bailey.
go and watch all of Casey's stuff as well.
If you've
Oh
got
my
a free
God.
weekend.
Yeah, free weekend. Honestly, I've been like, oh my God, there's so much to get through. But thank you so much for coming on the podcast. And yeah, we'll stay in the loop and we'll keep up to date with everything. Thank you.
Cool.